Freedom's the answer. What's the question? You're listening to Ernest Hancock.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence. We're going to be talking about the promise of the Republicans. What are they going to do? I mean, they got a plan, man. What's their plan for us, Charles?
Well, I wrote about this in the Dollar Meltdown so people would understand as these events unfold how to protect themselves and their families and to profit from this thing. Look, Ernie, in September before the election, they tried to capture the old magic of the contract with America from 94 or whenever that was, and they came out with I think they called it the Pledge to America, or like you got the promise, right?
Yeah.
They came out with that.
There's a promise.
And here's what they said that they were going to do in light of our economic calamity. They said in the first year we proposed to cut $100 billion from the budget. And I looked at that and I just laughed. I mean, it's so meaningless. It's insignificant. So here's what I did. This was a fun exercise. They came out with the Pledge to America, or whatever they called it, on September 22nd or 23rd. And there's a Treasury website that you could go to that shows you the debt to the penny. Day by day, to the penny. It's the official Treasury website. So I go on there. The Republicans have said, if you give us control of the House, we're going to cut $100 billion in the first year. So I go to the Treasury website on September 23rd, and I marked the amount of the debt. And I said, okay, let's just see how long it takes for the debt to increase by $100 billion. This is how much they're going to cut. A week later, from September 23rd to September 30th, the debt had increased by $100 billion. So they're going to cut $100 billion. Look, if interest rates go up 1%, if interest rates go up to 1%, the debts charged, the debt service on the national debt increases well over $100 billion. I mean, it's an insignificant amount of money. And then to make things worse, the Heritage Foundation came along, fine Republican think tank, came along and said, here's how to cut $347 billion from the federal budget. Now, what do you suppose they did? They shifted a bunch of stuff to the states, which are already bankrupt, by the way. You got California's $25 billion in the hole. They're going to be looking for a handout from the Fed or the Treasury. So they shift a lot but out of $347 billion, look, Congressman Ron Paul and Robert Higgs and others say that war and foreign spending by this government amount to about $1 trillion a year. The Heritage Foundation wouldn't even touch the war budget. Doesn't even touch. You've got $1 trillion a year in the budget belongs to war and foreign spending, and they won't even touch it. Now, who do you suppose? Who do you suppose endows and underwrites and enables the Heritage Foundation? I guess, judging from their policy recommendations, it must be the defense industry, right? Because they don't want to touch a penny. So I'm not sure any of these people are serious about doing anything about the debt. And here's the one other thing, and then I'll shut up. You had the election on Tuesday. You had 36 people over the last couple of years that had voted for Bush's $700 billion bailout. House and Senate, 36 of them out, gone. The people were furious.
All of them?
Gone. 36 of them gone who voted for it. Gone. And I wrote in the Dollar Meltdown about how the public was so opposed to this wealth transfer of Bush's $700 billion bailout. One congressman I wrote in the book said his calls were running 50-50. 50% no and 50% hell no. So the people band together and they become activists and they link arms and they have tea parties, kick out 36 of these people on Tuesday. And what happens on Wednesday? Just so you never forget who's really in charge.
Ben Bernanke.
Ben Bernanke comes up, actually a $900 billion program of quantitative easing, of money creation to buy government bonds, bigger than Bush's $700 billion bailout, bigger than Obama's $787 billion stimulus program. And who voted for it? Who debated it? Who voted for it? Who's in charge? Who do you unelect if you're not happy about it? They just came up with it on their own. It is so utterly destructive to the American way of life and the American economy, and yet this is whose hands we are in this country.
This is one thing where, you really are going to be able to provide a big service to the people that go to the Freedom Summit, is you have time to explain to them not only what's happening. I mean, they're getting an idea. They're looking at their spreadsheet of their own personal finances, and anybody that's over 50, they go, half, 3/4 of my wealth just went away. Yeah. And that was one thing we had the police officers here, and we were talking and said, look, we need to work together because sooner or later you're going to need us on your side. This is going to get bad. And if you don't think so, I know you guys, all you got to do is check your own pension funds. Yeah. And I go, and it's everybody's going to be like that. So we need to be able to work together, keep this revolution peaceful, love-volution. And they didn't like the talk. I mean, they definitely, some of them nodding head, they knew. And I'm just going, look, this isn't inevitable what's going to happen. So hopefully, in this context, you're going to be able to talk to the people and say, you know what? This is what you need to be doing.
Well, I'll tell you, it's all there. I'm really looking forward to the Freedom Summit because there's some new development, but it's all there. The Dollar Meltdown came out in hardcover a year ago, and step by step by step, the things that I've described as this crisis gets underway, this currency crisis, and it's not, I'm not Nostradamus, but the world has been through these things before, and there's a way that they typically unfold, step by step. So now a year later, they bring out the paperback, and it has a new forward and some new charts and things like that, but the situation is just getting going. Oh, sure, gold's up, silver's up, food prices are up, everything's, but by the first quarter of this next year, by the first quarter, January, February, March, you're going to turn on the late news at 10 or 11 o'clock of your favorite TV station, and they're going to have a reporting crew at the grocery store. And the reporting crew at the grocery store is going to be talking to the American people coming out of the store with the incredible shrinking grocery bag. It's going to be husbands and wives, mothers and fathers coming out and complaining about how the household budget doesn't get it anymore and the rapid rise in grocery prices. I guarantee you, first quarter of next year, that's going to be on your late news on TV. All of this stuff is unfolding. People, you have got to learn how to protect yourselves and your family from this calamity, and you can do so with the Dollar Meltdown.
And you can do so by going to freedomsummit.com and registering for the summit and pick student, by the way. I want to make sure that the people understand that we're not advocating for this. Just because we're the bearer of bad news doesn't make us generators of it. No. And oftentimes that's what happens. Oh, well, you libertarians, you want it to go down. And I'm like, well, if you keep saying that and everybody keeps saying that like you're saying that, then it'll happen because you're saying that.
You know what it reminds me of?
It reminds me of, I'm very powerful.
I've got something in the Dollar Meltdown about Ron Paul in 2004 or 2005 on the House floor saying, if you do this, we're going to have a housing calamity in a few years, and here's what it looks like. And that's the way we are. You don't have to be Nostradamus. You just have to understand economics of 2 + 2 = 4. You can't spend your way to prosperity. You can't create money out of thin air. The richest people in the world, we Americans, can't keep borrowing from some of the poorest people in the world to keep this government beast and its voracious appetite fed. These things don't. So I look at it this way. You're right. I'm not interested in being a fearmonger, but the world has been through these currency crisis rodeos before. And so you walk down the road, you go around the bend, and you see the bridge is washed out. So you come back and you flag people down. Is this fearful? You flag people down and say, hey, you better find a detour because right around the bend, the bridge is washed out. There's no fear involved. People should go, yeah, thanks, I'll take the detour. Yeah, because if you go speeding around that corner, the bridge is washed out. You don't want to do that. No, I don't want to. It's not fear. Oh my God, I'm taking a detour, but I'm almost dead because the bridge is. No, it's not fear. It's just here's the detour because the bridge is washed out, and you better make plans now to take a different route to your destination. That's the answer.
I'm hoping that people take it in the spirit that we're trying to share this information with them. That we're not looking at trying to scare you into doing anything. It's just we don't want to get blamed. Someone that was really good at this has been Jim Rogers. Mm-hmm. I remember you having him on a lot. Every week I'm calling him. I was producing for you. I'm calling him in Shanghai or whatever. And Rogers was saying, this and this and this and this is going to happen. And if I make a bunch of money because I know it, don't blame me.
Yeah. The truth is, the more people that understand what's coming, the better we're going to come out on the other side of this. I mean, look, the crisis is real. The money's already been spent. The debts have been created. They're going to be settled or paid off one way or the other. The more people that are prepared to understand this thing, the better off we make it on the other side.
I'm very glad that I got such an education from spending time with Charles, reading his book. And it's so enjoyable to read. I learned more than 30 pages from the first part of his book than any other book I've ever read about economics. It was so enjoyable, informative, and it may save your lifestyle. That you even have one. Go ahead and check it out. The Dollar Meltdown, and go to Charles Goyette, Goyette, charlesgoyette.com and freedomsummit.com. You go there and you get all the links to Charles, his books, and all the goodies. It's been great spending time with you, Charles. Thanks for coming on.
Already great to see you, buddy.
You bet. We'll be right back here tomorrow on LRN.FM. Declare your independence again.